Alright, so welcome back, and now in this episode we'll actually be cooking rice, and we'll be doing a long grain rice, a long grain white rice, and we're going to be showing you the cooking method behind it and the two-step process to always cooking rice. And so the first step is that, of course, measuring out your rice. And now what we have here is 2 cups of rice. We have a casserole dish as well. And so what I'm going to do, seeing that I know what this measurement is, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the casserole dish. And then I'm going to run water into it. I'm not going to measure the water because we actually need to wash the rice. The rice has a lot of starch, and so as I am washing the rice, you'll see the water that goes from clear to now milky. And so I'm just going to fill this up with a little bit of water. So now I have very clear water, very, very clear water, yet I haven't washed any of the rice. So what I'm going to do is just put my hand in and gently, gently stir it. And now we can see actually that the water has now turned to essentially milk. And that is all the starch that is coming off the outside of the rice, a little kernel there. And so what I'm going to do now is actually drain all the water off. And seeing that I used 2 cups of rice, I will now be using 2 cups of water. So now we have the water back, 2 cups and 2 cups. Now one thing, a little rule that I was taught way a long time ago is that say you don't have any measuring devices, you can put your hand flat against the rice and lift up just ever so slightly. Where this little knuckle is, that needs to be your water depth. So I push in and it's right at my water depth, and so now you know you have the amount that you need, and I learned that from a Chinese man way back in the day. Alright, so now I want to flavor. So with any kind of rice you of course have to add a little bit of salt. So what we're going to do here, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of salt. Actually, let's do 3 teaspoons of salt. Garlic, and then also lemon zest. Now whenever you're putting garlic in to rice, you don't need to slice it. You just need to barely smash it. And so you can use the back of a spoon. And all we're trying to do is just barely smash it because we want to leave it whole, because when the rice has finished cooking, we need to be able to get it out. And so I'm going to put 4 half garlic cloves or 2 whole garlic cloves. And then when we're doing zest of a lemon, we're going to do 1/4 zest of a lemon. And always remember, whenever you are zesting, make sure you do it over what you need to zest, because there's oils in the outside of all the citrus peels, and so that actually gets to go in there as well. And so whenever you're done, always, whatever you're zesting, tap it. So when that gets the excess off, always turn the zester over, and then you need to scrape to get everything in the pot. So now what we're going to do, we're actually going to turn the heat on very, very high, put the rice on. Once the water comes to a boil, we will reduce the heat to medium-low, put a spoon through it just to stir it around ever so slightly, and then we'll put the lid on and we'll cook it for 8 to 10 minutes. And so now we're seeing a little bit of the bubbles of the boil happening, so that means all the water is now the same temperature. So all we're going to do is just use a spoon. We're going to do a little snake pattern through just one time. Pull the spoon out. We're now going to put the lid on. Now we're going to reduce the heat to medium-low. We're going to let that cook 8 to 10 minutes. And the way that we're going to tell if it's done is that we're going to tilt the pot, and if there's any water left, it'll be right here at the center of it. So now we go, okay, it needs to now continue cooking because it hasn't absorbed all the water. All right, so now our rice has been cooking from 8 to 10 minutes. And it's been 8 minutes, and you say, oh, well, Burton, how do I know that the rice is now completed? So we put water in. The water needs to evaporate into the entirety of the rice. So the easiest trick that I've ever learned is actually, first we'll pull off the lid, and I'll look at it, and then what I'll do is I'll actually tip it toward me. And so what I'm looking for in the bottom is seeing if there's a little bit of moisture. And if there is a little bit of water left, guess what? It's not completed cooking, and you're probably about 1 minute away. And the residual heat will help carry that over as well. So I see just a teensy bit of water. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put it right back on. And now the lid has now been taken off because it's gonna help evaporate it just that much quicker. And then after that 1 minute, I'm now gonna use a fork, and I'm going to now cut lines into the rice. And what that's going to do is help fluff up the rice, because as the rice has been cooking, it's become very, very compact, but it's risen. And so what I'm going to try to do is get the bottom to the top and the top to the bottom. Alright, so what we're going to do is now use the fork just to go through. Go back through this way. And then we use the fork right here just to slice through it again. And now I've looked at everything, looked in, made sure that no water is now on the bottom, and it's so important to make sure that your measurements are correct with your rice and then also with your water. If they are incorrect, you can't go about with the method of actually looking into the bottom of the pan to see if all the water has evaporated. So what I have here is saying that we did a lemon and garlic. I'm just going to add a little bit more lemon zest right on top. A very simple rice to do. And again, I'm doing it directly over. Do a little snap. And then, who doesn't love a little basil? And you can do a great chiffonade with this. Put it right on top. And whenever you're adding a garnish to any kind of dish, you have to think in your mind, how many bites is that person going to eat? So that's how much of the garnishment that I need to put on there. So if you had a huge bowl of tomato soup with only 2 croutons, it might not last throughout the entirety. So always think about that. And now we have a garlic and lemon rice with a little bit of basil chiffonade on top.